Welcome to our weekly show for the National Association of Independent Medical Practices. You can find us at NAIMP.org. NAIMP is an organization focused on helping independent medical practices become more successful by providing innovative discussions, networking with like-minded professionals, and opportunities for growth, education, and increased revenue. Check out our website today at naimp.org.
Hello and welcome. This is Shirley Cress-Dudley, your host, and today we'd like to welcome back Mike DeFrisco. Michael is the Chief Marketing Officer for the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, the AACD. He is also founder of HowToBranding.com and has more than 25 years of experience in helping businesses effectively connect with their target audiences through strategic level mission relevance, brand oversight, and efficiency in marketing communications. Mike is also the author of How to Craft a Radical Brand for Your Dental Practice. And today, by popular demand, we're having him back to speak again, and the topic today is Inside Out Marketing for Your Medical Practice. So welcome back, Mike.
Thank you, Shirley. Glad to be back. I had fun the last time around, and that's when we talked about radical branding and how medical practices, and I work with a lot of dental practices, independent dental practices, how a medical practice can use branding as the foundation or the platform for all of their marketing and communications. So since we set the table last time, I thought today I would bring your audience inside out marketing for your medical practice, which is now how to take that inside reality that we've built when we branded our practice and communicate it outside through all your marketing and communications. So that's what inside out marketing is. So I'm showing you a view here of my PowerPoint where I can see what's coming up next and I can see my notes. So just pay attention to the big slide in the middle and you can follow along with me. And if you're just listening on the audio podcast, you could go to the NAIMP website and download the slides. So let's move right along. So why are we here? Well, in my consulting with small businesses and entrepreneurs and medical practices, it's become pretty clear that businesses waste between $30 and $50 billion each year on ineffective marketing. It's a pretty astounding number, really, but that's actually what I've heard is that's kind of a low estimate. So a lot of ineffective marketing going on out there, and we want to turn that around. The other reality that you might be able to relate to is that about 90% of small business owners, and as an independent medical practice, that's you, report that they're dissatisfied with results from local advertising. So maybe you can relate to that, but that's true in my consulting work as well. Well, the purpose of inside-out marketing is to drive your marketing efforts, expand your patient base, and ultimately to improve your bottom line. So that's why inside-out marketing is here today. So our objective is to match your inside reality, right? What you're really good at, what your practice stands for, your brand promise, your essence, you might have heard it called, with your outside perceptions. And your outside perceptions is what your patients and your prospects see through your website, through your marketing, through your e-newsletter, through your reminder services, whatever you're using to communicate to your target market, those are your outside perceptions. So we want to match your inside reality with your outside perceptions. And I can give you a good example of this. I recently did some consulting with a company that's in the bioremediation space. And if you're not familiar with that term, bioremediation is when a company comes into a property. Let's say there used to be a gas station on some property and the gas station's been torn down and there's contaminants in the soil. And what a bioremediation company comes in and does is inject various substrates into the soil to remove the contaminants. So I was consulting with a company that did this, and as we were working on their inside reality, their brand, I asked them a lot of leading questions to understand what they did different or better than their competition. And the company came back and said, we're all about high technology. We want to boast and brag about how technologically advanced we are. And I thought that sounded good until I started to look at their competition. And what I noticed in looking at the competitive landscape is that every other company in their space says the same thing. They're all about their technology. So for them, it was not a good differentiator. They would have been lost in the noise. So I probed more, I challenged them more, and what I discovered is that they had a new technology that makes bioremediation safer by eliminating methane off-gassing when they were doing bioremediation. So I asked them about that, and they confirmed that their process was much safer for the environment, much safer for the project manager, much safer for the site development crew than any other product out there. So I convinced them that their real inside reality wasn't technology at all, it was safety. And that really gave them this competitive edge as they launched their brand into a really competitive marketplace. So you want to think about what really makes you different, what your inside reality really is, and how it's different from the competition. So here's why most medical marketing sucks, and I apologize for saying that, but it's kind of true. Again, what I've discovered in working with dental practices is they often have this awesome inside reality, something that they're really proud of, something that's relevant and authentic and differentiated. Remember, if you listen to my last podcast, we talked quite a bit about being radical, R-A-D right there. But most often, this reality is not communicated to the target market. These are the outside perceptions that I talked about, your marketing and communications. They must match. If they don't match, your marketing will suck and there will be a major disconnect over why somebody should patronize your medical practice. So look, you know the stuff that you're good at. You know what your practice is really strong. You know what your strengths are. You also know what gets you excited every day when you come into the office. What is it that gets you up in the morning and into the office? Maybe you have a really strong team that you're really proud of. Maybe your level of patient service is extremely high, and that's your inside reality. Whatever it is, it's the stuff that you wish that your patients and prospects could see. So the idea behind inside out marketing is to show them that inside reality and allow your offerings to show through in all your marketing and communications. That's inside marketing. And here's the cool thing. There's really two aspects when we talk about medical patients. There's the getting of the patients, the acquiring of the patients, and then there's the keeping of the patients. Now, with some procedures, you don't want to see a patient back again, but you could also look at keeping, like referrals and word of mouth. So you want to get patients, you want to keep patients. So here's the other cool thing about inside-out marketing. Those outside perceptions that we talked about, you know, how people see your practice through your marketing and communications, that's about getting new patients. Your inside reality, on the other hand, is how well you deliver on your brand promise and the expectations that your patients and prospects have about you. That's about keeping the patients you already have or driving word-of-mouth referrals. So at the end of the day, building a brand is about carving out your story and creating a brand vocabulary so that you can tell the untold story about your practice. So the tools that you'll use to do this are design, the words that you use, the imagery that you choose for your marketing and communications. In other words, how you speak to the outside world so that your business stands out and is perceived as different and as a healthcare leader in your community. Because when your inside reality is aligned with your outside perceptions, that's when magic can happen. So let's kind of rewind here a little bit and talk about the purpose of marketing. There's hundreds of definitions about marketing, but my favorite is marketing is all about reaching at the lowest possible cost the most people in your target market who can and will buy the services that you're selling. And while we don't want to sound too mercenary in the healthcare field, the fact is we wouldn't exist unless we can make the cash register ring. So that is the purpose of marketing. So keep that in mind as we move through. So let's reiterate the problem. Most independent medical practices are not happy with the results of their marketing. We established that. Tactical marketing options have literally exploded. I mean, there's so many different opportunities out there to promote your practice. And frankly, most practices do not align their reality, their inside reality, with their outside perception. So that's a problem. And the other thing, and if you have this dynamic at your practice, is many different team members often have their hands in the marketing pot. So it might be the doctor who's in charge of making marketing decisions. Sometimes it's the office manager. Sometimes there's outside consultants. Sometimes it's the front desk person. So that can create some problems too. So we've set the table, and now let's talk about Mike's rules to effective, accountable, inside-out marketing. I like to start with my rules because there's just some things that I think to calibrate your marketing, you need to all be on the same page here about what works and what doesn't. So before we talk about the specifics of inside-out marketing, I wanted to share with you some of my rules for effective and accountable marketing. So let's start with rule 1. If your doors are open, you should be marketing. You know, in the old days, even when my dad had a dental practice back in the 1970s and 80s, you know, you just hung your shingle out and you hoped that between friends and neighbors and, you know, some referrals that you'd be busy. And marketing was not something that you did. Medical marketing was just not something that you did back then. It's not that way anymore. Marketing isn't optional. There's a passing parade out there, not a captive audience. So these people are moving in and out of various you know, health concerns. They're moving. Did you know that like about 25% of people move each year? So each year there are 25% new people in your community who you could be marketing to. The other reason that you should always be marketing is that people are exposed to, some people say, thousands and thousands of messages per day. And while I used to not believe that, if you ever tried to keep track of how many different impressions you get, brand impressions, advertising commercials, especially online now with pop-up ads and banners and retargeting and AdWords, and I mean, there's just so much going on out there that the only way to really cut through the clutter is to make sure that you're advertising or marketing consistently. And the other thing, especially in the medical fields, is, you know, people are really on the lookout for a solution only when they perceive that there's a problem. So when they have a problem, you need to be there in front of their face. So that was rule 1. Rule 2, marketing is not a necessary evil. I know a lot of independent people, small businesses, entrepreneurs, dentists that I work with, they kind of think that marketing is somewhat optional and they don't need to engage in it if it's not working for them. But here's something kind of interesting, that effective marketing versus the kind we talked about a little while ago where 90% of the marketing does not seem very effective, can maintain steady growth in any economic environment. In other words, if you and your competitor are both doing the same amount of marketing, but your marketing is effective, you can increase your revenues from 10 to 30% more than that similarly sized competitor. So good marketing, effective marketing, accountable marketing, inside-out marketing, that could make a difference in your revenue streams. And finally, marketing is an essential element if your practice is focused on growth. It's just something that you need to do. Here's one of my favorite rules, and that is you can't treat marketing as an event, a singular event. Oh, let's try this. Oh, here's the flavor of the day. Let's do that. Oh, the guy down the street, he's doing this. Let's try that. You can't treat marketing as an event. It's a process. You know, the old school marketing funnel is dead, where you generated leads and they move through the funnel and you create interest and then they decide to buy and then you start all over again, bringing leads into the funnel. Marketing is really like an hourglass. The sand is always moving, and then when the sand runs out, you flip it over and the sand keeps moving again. So if you treat marketing like an ongoing component of your medical practice with kind of a long-term commitment approach, that kind of a mindset, you'll have better success. If you treat it as a one-time event, oh, let's try direct mail. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Then it probably won't work for you. The new marketing hourglass goes something like this. You first have to get prospects and patients to know that you exist. Then you have to get them to like you, because people buy from people that they like. Then you got to get them to trust you. Again, people buy from people they trust, especially in the healthcare arena. Then they'll try. That's the trial, and sometimes that's done with an offer or a free consultation or whatever it is to get them to try your practice. Then they become a patient, so they buy. But what you really want is that patient to repeat, and then ultimately the holy grail of the marketing hourglass is a referral. You want that word of mouth referral to tell their friends and family about you. So again, marketing is a process, not an event. Don't think of it as a one-way funnel that has a beginning and an end. Think of it instead as this hourglass. Rule 4, this is one of my favorite ones, because really, I mean, I get asked this question a lot, but what's the secret sauce? What's working today? Look, there's no silver bullets, magic potions. There's no end-all approaches. Everybody thinks they're good at marketing. That's why marketing is like sex. Everyone thinks they're good at it. But successful, really accountable marketing is about doing many things well over an extended period of time. There's not just this secret sauce out there that's going to get you to where you want to go. It's about getting all the fundamentals right. I call that the blocking and tackling. Get that stuff right. Do it consistently. Do it well. Make it accountable, and you will have better success with your marketing. Rule 5. The best way to make your marketing more effective and efficient is to make it accountable. You've heard me say that word a few times now, but here's a simple way to look at it. If you can't measure the results of your marketing, if you can't tell if a specific tactic worked or didn't, then you can't improve on it. So while it's not possible to track every marketing tactic, you want to make sure that you're doing a lot of accountable marketing where you can actually tell, yes, this was a good use of my marketing dollars. And we'll end with Rule 6, which is let your team in on your plans. This happens quite a bit where your team is not aware that you're marketing or that you're reaching a certain target audience or that you have a special this week to bring people into the office for a consult. Let them know what you're doing, and better yet, ask what they think might be worthwhile marketing approaches. Your front office people, your nurses, your hygienists, they're pretty smart people and they might have some good ideas. So let your team in on your plans. All right, but here's the cool thing about any kind of healthcare marketing. The 3 basic things that all customers want are solutions to their problems, good feelings, and instant gratification. And what's cool about the medical fields, the healthcare fields, is that you have the power to address all 3 of those primary customer wants. So you're in a really good position to kind of meet the needs of your patients and your prospects. So now let's get back to this idea of inside-out marketing. Here's just some rules about creating a good ad or a marketing piece that will actually get results. First of all, you want to deliver your message using whatever media offers the best psychological environment. So where are your patients and prospects hanging out? What are they reading? Where do they live? What are their demographics? What do you know about them? How educated are they, so that you can reach them where they will be most influenced by your message? Remember that advertising works best when it speaks to something that customers or patients or prospects already care about. And here's the truth is that tens of millions of us secretly wish we were more attractive, more confident, that people treated us differently, that we were healthier, that we had a better style of life because of our healthcare decisions. So if that's already a felt need for your patients and prospects, then speak to that felt need. Next, think about who's buying your services, because at any given time, prospective patients, which kind of represent your future income if you want to look at it that way, they're in the thinking about it or the information gathering mode. So they're trying to educate themselves. They don't want to make a poor decision. So the reason that you're marketing, the reason that you're doing communications and advertising for these people is to convince them that you have not only information but the skills that they're going to need to make this informed decision, a good decision. Here's the way I like to look at it. I call it the buying intent spectrum. And most medical practices, especially a lot of the dentists that I work with, and if you can see the slide right now, you'll see that on the right side of the slide is kind of our hot spot. These are the people who are ready to buy now. They've been educated, they've been convinced, they've heard from a friend who had a similar procedure. These people might respond to traditional institutional advertising like most medical advertising is. In order to make your medical marketing not suck is you want to market to that 90%. If you want to really grow your practice, you want to market to the 90%. These are the prospective patients who have yet to become aware of the benefits of your treatments, your dentistry, your medical procedures, whatever you offer. These people need to be educated on the value of those treatments and on the emotional and social benefits of what that treatment could offer. So you want to make it crystal clear why you're the doctor or healthcare professional for them. Educating them also helps to take price out of the equation, because you'll be perceived as less of a commodity if you can educate your prospects before they turn into patients. So here's an example of just some dental marketing that I would call pure institutional marketing. There's nothing really in this ad that would kind of evoke an emotional response. There's some bulleted, what I call the laundry list of things, of treatments, of treatment options that pretty much any dental practice can claim. So you want to make sure that you're not caught in this trap, because you're going to ensure that your marketing, your outside perceptions as we call them, are a reflection of your inside reality, right? You will not create an ad like this if you make your inside reality match your outside perceptions. Let's go back to this spectrum idea again. This slide's a little bit hard to see because it's so small and so horizontal, but again, you have people who don't understand on the left side of our spectrum. They don't understand really the benefits of what you offer. These are your future buyers, but they need to be educated. The people in the middle of the spectrum have some objections to maybe what you offer. Finally, the people, as you get to the right side of the spectrum, these are the people who now have understood or have been educated that what you're offering is valuable, and now they're at the point where they're ready to make their vendor selection, as it's called, or to choose a practice that they want to patronize. So again, you want to market to that 90% to educate them about what you offer. So how do you make your medical marketing not suck? Okay, you can market to that 90% that I've been talking about by using this formula. It's as simple as interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. And again, you heard me talk about how important it is to educate those people to move them to the right-hand side of that buying intent spectrum. So let's talk about each of those quickly. When you interrupt your prospect, you're trying to get them, the qualified people. Again, if they're unqualified for what you're offering, if they're not in the market for what you're offering, if they're not dealing with some kind of a pain or symptom that leads them to what you offer, then they're not qualified prospects. This is about getting qualified prospects to pay attention to your marketing. So you want to interrupt them. You want to identify and hit their hot button. All right? Then you want to engage them. When you engage them, you're drawing them in by giving them, the prospect that is, the promise that information is coming that will facilitate their decision-making process. Now, like I mentioned earlier, no one wants to make a bad purchase decision, and insurance helps, but they don't want to be ignorant when they're about to spend money. So the engage step is that promise of forthcoming information. Then you want to educate the prospect. So this is where you're going to identify important and relevant issues that prospects need to be aware of. Then you're going to demonstrate how your practice stacks up against those issues. So this is where you're going to build the case for your practice, because when you educate them, you're actually giving them the information that they need to feel in control of that final decision, especially as it relates to healthcare decisions. And finally, make sure your advertising, your marketing, your communications has an offer. In other words, give them a low-risk way to take the next step. Make an appointment. Talk to the doctor. Come in for a free, no-obligation consultation. Invite them to your office to compare options. Somehow make an offer that makes it easy for them to take the next step. So, interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. Now, recently I was putting an ad together for the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry where I work, and we don't do a lot of institutional type advertising or brand advertising in dental publications, but we decided to give it a try. And I wanted to use this formula because I know that it's powerful. And I came across this picture of this guy with dreadlocks, and he's obviously happy and exuberant, and loved that he's genuine looking, but that his eyes are covered so that you focus totally on his smile. I just thought it was a great picture, and I thought, wow, that would really interrupt somebody who was flipping through a dental magazine, because it doesn't look like any other dental ad that I've ever seen. Plus the black and white photography I thought was pretty unique and different. So I thought I'm going to start there with my ad. So that was my interrupt. Again, this is accomplished by identifying and hitting your prospects' hot buttons. And I wanted to make sure that dental professionals who saw this ad would be arrested and stop and disrupted as they were flipping through the pages of the magazine. Then I thought, how am I going to engage them? How am I going to give them information that lets them know that some more information is forthcoming? So I came up with this headline of the new face of AACD, and I thought, okay, that's kind of engaging because it's a double entendre. Is that the new face of AACD, this patient, or is something new about the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry? So I thought that would engage people. To educate them, I told them about giving their patients the best results possible, the smile of their dreams. I told them to imagine the power of combining form and function and offering their patients predictable outcomes. That's what they want. That's what these other dental professionals want. And then I said, imagine an organization that both educates their members and helps them grow their practices. Welcome to the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. So I educated them by telling them what's new about AACD. And finally, I made an offer, and I did it two ways. I did it in a very passive way by saying, join today, and I gave them a website to go to. But I also did it in a very active lead generation way, where I'm giving them a free download of a white paper that I thought had a very compelling title. So what I was hoping for was that this would generate leads for the Academy that then we could nurture through email and other marketing efforts. So I put this ad together using the formula, and it kind of struck me that, that it actually came together very naturally, very easy. And I was reminded of a great quote that says, if it's that hard to write the ad, you don't need better advertising. You need a better reality. And that quote fits perfectly with this idea of inside-out marketing. If you don't have a good inside reality, you're never going to create the kind of advertising that you need in your outside perceptions. So, here's what I would recommend. Take a look at your marketing today. Take a look at your ads. Take a look at your website. Take a look at the other ways you communicate with patients and prospects, and subject them to these 3 marketing tests. And I can subject the ad that I just showed you to these tests, and that earlier one that I showed you of the dental practice, I could subject it to these 3 tests. But the first one is the, well, I would hope so test. Now, when your marketing makes a specific claim, ask if the prospect's going to respond with, well, I would hope so, because if they can say that, then your ad probably is a failure. So I'll give you an example. I see a lot of medical advertising that says, accepting new patients. Well, I would hope so. Otherwise, why are you bothering to advertise if you're all filled up and you don't need new patients? So that's the well, I would hope so test. The second test is the your mother must be very proud test. Now, again, a lot of advertising is filled with platitudes that are empty and emotionless, stuff that no one would care about except your mom. So if that's the case, get those platitudes out of there and put something in there that's engaging and interrupting and will really meet somebody on a social and emotional level. And finally, my favorite test is the cross-out write-in test. It simply goes like this. If you could cross out the name of your medical practice and put in your competitor's name and the ad still works, the ad is probably a failure. And that earlier ad I showed you with that dentist, you could probably put 10,000 different dentist names in that ad and the ad would still work. And the reason it would still work is because there's no inside reality being expressed in outside perceptions. And that's what inside-out marketing is all about. So I wanted to leave you with this story about when inside-out marketing goes bad. A couple years ago, I was at a dental conference in Las Vegas, and I was staying at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. I had never been there before, but it's a very, I don't know how you say this, it was a very sensual property in that they kind of emphasized in their decor kind of sensuality, like in the lobby where you check in, there's these huge video columns where these naked writhing bodies were kind of video, projected into these columns, and they make a lot of kind of attempts at sensuality, I guess, for a property, which doesn't surprise you for Las Vegas. And when I checked into my room, I noticed the normal minibar amenities, but there was one item that caught my eye in the minibar, and that was this little box, and it was called the Get Lucky Romance Kit. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I picked it up and I looked at it, and it included a condom and a breath mint, and it was goofy, and I thought it was funny, and so I took a picture of it and sent it to my brothers. Ha ha, look, I'm in Las Vegas, isn't this silly? And forgot about it. And when I checked out of the hotel a couple of days later, I looked at my bill, and I was kind of horrified to see that I had purchased one Get Lucky Romance Kit for $15. Now, I noticed later on in the itemization of the bill that they also deducted the $15 for the Get Lucky Romance Kit, and they took it off my bill, so I didn't pay for it. Turns out, and I did not know this, that a lot of items in minibars have little sensors on them so that they can keep inventory and see who took stuff. So I had to turn in an expense report for my trip, and I didn't want the chief financial officer to see this on my bill. Even though I didn't pay for it, I was embarrassed about it. So I called the Cosmopolitan and I complained and said, whatever happened to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? I mean, your character said one thing, but your conduct said another. Your inside reality is what happens here stays here, but your outside perceptions, what you delivered to me in an invoice, was a total disconnect. And so that's the danger of not aligning your inside reality with your outside perceptions. Things can go wrong. So I hope you enjoyed that today. I hope it was helpful and that you got something out of inside-out marketing for your medical practice.
Thank you, Mike. Good information and also very funny. Quite a funny story. Can you remind us again how to get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Sure. You can contact me at AACD, and my email address is michaeld@aacd.com. And my personal website, like Shirley mentioned at the beginning, is www.how-to-branding.com, and that is hyphenated, how-to-branding.com.
Perfect, thank you. And if you'd like to see the slides, and there are some really good ones in this presentation, go to naimp.org and you can listen to the presentation and watch the slides at the same time. So Mike, thanks again for your expertise, and to our listeners, thank you for listening.